Hello, all you spry tubers, twitchers, and pod people out there. Welcome to the Could You Do It Better podcast, where director, artist, and the behind-the-scenes awesomeness known as Sesh, and the writing and directing sensation known as Maria discuss popular television shows and movies and answer the always controversial question of, could you do it better? Today, we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 8, the series finale of Ryan Condal's House of the Dragon television series based upon George R.R. Martin's novel, Fire and Blood. And as for me, I'm Jonathan the Intern, and unlike our two experts, have no industry experience whatsoever. In other words, I'm much like Rhaena. I can't even follow the simplest of instructions from my queens. I'm constantly chasing the dragon to be considered anything but a failure, and nobody cares how many mountains I run up just so long as it ends with me dying from hypothermia next to a rock. And now, to Sesh and Maria. Woo!
Woo!
We don't budget in coats for you.
No, we do not. We do not. Well, folks, we've made it. It's the series finale. Everybody's thrilled. Fists pumping. Handsprings. And spoiler warnings abound. So, in this episode, we will be doing a detailed recap of Season 2, Episode 8 of the House of the Dragon TV series that will indeed contain spoilers throughout. So that is correct. We are spoiling the season finale. What there is to spoil. So if you watch this episode and don't want to hear spoilers before you do, please feel free to put us on mute as you watch the episode, then rewatch our show afterwards, because that's how you double those view counts. And now, on to the recap as mandated by our legal department. We begin this episode in Essos, where Thailand is trying to purchase an armada from the Triarchy to break the blockade. Unfortunately, his credit card only had a $1,000 gold limit, so was declined, and he had to resort to barter, agreeing to gift them the stepstones so they can control all major shipping lanes between Essos and Westeros. However, before he left, he had to undertake one other condition. Woo the steely-hearted Lohar. And I've seen enough movies to know this requires giving her a makeover and winning her that prom queen tiara. More on this later. Cut to a smirking Aemon on Vhagar watching a castle burn. Well, that was an insightful 4-second clip. To King's Landing, where Larys tells Aegon he wants to abscond with him to Braavos as his death is imminent. Aegon tells Larys he won't be able to fulfill his marital duties due to him and his manhood spending too much time roasting under dragonfire, and it just sort of exploded.
Oh, gosh.
Larys attempts to soothe him by giving him self-affirming titles, and Aegon smiles for the first time since the weenie roast. Cut to 3 seconds of Rhaena sucking down water from a stream like it's $2 tequila night. Now, cut to Ulf, I guess attempting to be comic relief by patronizing and showing ill manners to Jace and then repeating the lines Jace told his mother last episode that they're equals, while Hugh attempts to play the straight man. Okay, Hati, it's been 12 minutes already. Let's maybe please focus this episode just a little, before we all start knocking out random Zoomers to steal their Adderall. Driftmark. To Driftmark, where Rhaenyra and Corlys finally talk military strategy. Corlys tells Rhaenyra that now that she has the giant dragon advantage to take out Aemon and Vhagar, Helaena and Daeron, and end the war. Rhaenyra tells him that her strategy is to stare at Aemon disapprovingly, do nothing, and hope he'll stop. Corlys calls her an idiot without calling her an idiot and shows off his refurbished, rebranded boat. Over to Harrenhal, where Daemon has undergone the most extreme personality shift yet, as he has apparently now become an extremely capable, intelligent, and tremendous leader, with no hint of the sleep deprivation, insanity, and complete lack of even the most basic of leadership skills his character had shown in every single episode this entire season. Well, just in time for Sir Alfred Broom to show up to check in on him. After impressing Broom with his army and new California cool, laid-back attitude, Broom says Rhaenyra is an incapable leader and they desperately need a man-king like him. Daemon just smiles and walks away. Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Aemond, angry that Rhaenyra recruited dragon riders in King's Landing, tells Ironrod to shut down the port and all fishing boats for inspection. Ironrod informs him that, combined with shutting the gates to King's Landing, this means no food can enter the city, and Aemond is like, hey, we all make sacrifices, people love cleanses. Aemond then goes to Rhaena to tell her she's been drafted for dragon riding battle. She refuses, and Alicent steps in to say, not today, Junior. Aemond scowls and walks away. Alicent, deciding to be motherly this episode for once, asks Rhaena if she wants to skip town with her and requests the maester to book her passage. Cut to Criston Cole in the middle of the forest sniffing Alicent's undergarments. It is true. Alicent's brother catches him and threatens to tell everyone. Criston Cole, who I guess must take night classes towards his degree in the humanities, goes all poet laureate, philosophizing on the utter worthlessness and corruption of man, and he now awaits the sweet relief of death. Dwayne is like, damn, I had no idea screwing my sister could be so depressing. In silence.
Really terrible.
We now move on to 2 minutes of Tywin and Lohar mud wrestling, resulting in a dinner date. Well, now that that's done, Baela consoles a pouting Jace, telling him that just because he was born out of wedlock doesn't mean he's worthless. Followed by a quick 3-second cut to Rhaena next to a rock suffering from hypothermia. Now, yeah, the cuts are fast and furious in this one, guys, so just hang on. Now back to Tywin and Lohar on their group date. Tywin goes to his go-to move and serenades her, and that's enough for her to tell him she wants his babies. In each of her wives. Sigh. Moving on to the Queen's table in Dragonstone, where she toasts the new riders and Ulf acts disgracefully. Rhaenyra, finally taking advice from her hand, commands them to learn their dragon command. The only one we've heard in this series so far is Dracarys, so it's hard to learn. And destroy the Hightower armies at Old Town and Lannisport. There is much hesitancy there, but Jace drives home that that's their best option to end the war now and return to a state of peace. Hold on, this dinner is interrupted with a message from Harrenhal. Sir Simon Strong believes treachery is afoot. Rhaenyra cancels dinner to leave with Adam Hull to presumably give Daemon a spanking. And speaking of Daemon, Alice is in his bedchamber, watching him sleep right now, and wakes him up to invite him to go hiking in the woods with her to fondle a weirwood tree and learn his future. Daemon compliantly accepts and receives a vision of the entire Game of Thrones storyline. Dead dragons and rotting corpses, him drowning and Rhaenyra on the throne. All with a voiceover from Helena, of all people, telling him he's only a single part of the grand story and he should know his place in it. And like most viewers, Daemon is bewildered why they added Game of Thrones trailers with spoilers to his Oracle vision. He was going to binge watch that show next. Now to King's Landing, where Aemon uses sweet, soothing, dulcet tones to once again convince Helena to join him in battle. But with oddly unnerving clarity for Helena, she refuses, saying she saw him light her brother husband on fire, but that Aegon was going to be king again, this time on a wooden throne. But Aemon was going to die in a lake. He did not like that. To Harrenhal, where Rhaenyra is surprised to see Daemon has turned Harrenhal into a posh, fresh market bodega, sure to attract the desirable yuppie target demographic. Daemon tells Rhaenyra he has now seen the Game of Thrones teaser trailer as well, and is deeply moved by it. He then kneels to her, saying she is the leader meant to lead them through this tough time that has nothing to do with them and will happen over 100 years after they die. gets his forces in a frenzy by reciting the Battle for Helm's Deep rallying cries to the best of his recollection. Everyone rejoices, even Sir Strong and Daemon Rhaenyra get back together. Episode ends. Oh, wait, never mind. We're still going. To Driftmark, where Corlys tries giving some fatherly tips to Alan on putting himself out there and being a good leader. Alan is like, when me and my brother were starving and barely getting by as bastards, not even owning winter coats, you walked right by us pretending we didn't exist. And now you want to play father? Hell no. I'm my own man. I want nothing from you. Alan out. Or drop. And now... 5 seconds of Rhaena running up a mountain in chase of the wild dragon. To Dragonstone, where Rhaenyra tells Mysaria she doesn't think her dad wants her to kill innocent people. Mysaria's like, you be tripping, girl. God put you on this earth to slay. Now you go get you some body count, skank. Fast forward to the middle of the night, and Rhaenyra is awoken from her slumber by secret visitor Alicent. Man, are there no guards in Westeros? Anyway... Alicent apologizes, claiming a change of heart. She tells Rhaenyra that when Aemon goes to attack Harrenhal, if she flies to King's Landing, they'll lay their swords down and abdicate the throne peacefully. That is not enough for Rhaenyra, who also desires Aegon's head. Alicent agrees. Rhaenyra asks what Alicent wants out of all of this, to which she replies to walk free as just a person, and then asks Rhaenyra to run away with her as her lover. Even Rhaenyra knows that's irrational and tells her to go home. What follows is a several-minute medley of every single character in this show preparing for war set to a phenomenal orchestral score. Episode ends with Rhaena sprinting like an Olympic athlete towards a wild dragon, Otto in what looks like a jail cell, Larys and Aegon on a romantic carriage ride, and Rhaenyra and Alicent each individually staring into space at the sunset. This episode is brought to you by Down and Dirty Dating. Time to face the truth, brother. You're single, and it sure as hell ain't because you're picky. Yeah, you might have that fancy college degree, but that sad sack reflection you see in the mirror ain't fooling anyone from thinking you're anything but a beta male. Well, here at Down and Dirty Dating, we don't set you up on dates. We make you earn them mud wrestling until you win them over by submission. Because the mud ring don't care you're single, because you're the poet laureate of pretentious emo jackwagons who spend all day sniffing their ex's underwear in the forest. It just cares who ends up on top. That's Down and Dirty Dating, where everyone gets a good roll in the mud. Brother. I'm downloading that one today.
Yes. That's our best sponsor, honestly. Woohoo.
I had a quick question about not the dating app. Well, where did Adam go when she's like, "Come on, Adam, we're going on our dragons"? Did you see him at all?
Yeah. He was flying around Harrenhal.
Oh, okay.
Just flying around.
Okay.
You know, they call that hours of service.
Gotcha.
You know, you got to get your hours up before you can start flying full-size dragons.
Okay. You have to know completely what all the dragons look like from being bird size in the camera.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right, now I can start asking questions here.
The real questions.
Yes. All right. Our first question of the night is, do you think introducing new characters at the end of a season serves to add more excitement for the following season or just weaken the strength of the current one? I'm going to go first on this one. I feel like most people's expectations going into a season finale is all about wrapping up the high stakes that have been laid out, finding out who will prevail or suffer, having enough closure with the storyline to feel satisfied, and at the same time being left with some cliffhanger to keep me wanting more for the next season. Too many characters and side ventures were entertained in this finale for me to be on board, mainly because the new characters and side arcs are not directly connected to the main character's struggles in the moment. Like, while they obviously serve a purpose for next season, for me, they just weaken the potency of the storytelling and make me feel like every episode is more about waiting for some future payoff instead of feeling the story progression in the now. it is diluted storytelling, in my opinion. With each new character added, I am invested less and less in whatever troubles they run into, creating lower and lower stakes, and anticipation overall.
Oh, well summed up. Yeah, it could have been done well, but it wasn't. I'm bummed we didn't get this Lannister side quest in Essos earlier, even though it was real fun. I have no notes on it in itself. Like I just didn't enjoy that it was in this episode. I'm so mad they've been doing that with every new character. I'm excited to see more pirates for next season, but simultaneously wondering why we didn't get this sooner with the new characters. Again, this isn't the first time they've done this. Like, it's the same failings again. It would have been great to really spend more time here with them too, to get to know this Lannister guy better before his side quest. Maybe the captains too over the course of the season, so that when they finally do see a clash at sea with Corlys's fleet, we're gonna be dreading it as an audience. Like, we want them both to win, like Brienne of Tarth and the Hound sword fighting. It'd be a real nail biter of a fight. Like, we have that potential here, but these seeds are more than likely planted way too late in the season. Like, I love the humor. I was smiling and enjoying it, but just thinking back, it messes with the overall tone. Like, again, even if we didn't get more of this, we really could have had it earlier in the season. They could have cut half of what we've seen with Daemon at Harrenhal and give us proper new characterization anywhere, please.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it could, sure. Like if you're adding or unmasking a new big bad. But in this episode, we're now adding the captain from Essos and primarily in a comic relief role, which is quite odd because it doesn't actively add anything to a finale. You know, as was said, it would make far more sense to have this character introduction in the next to last episode, or even interspersed throughout the season. Maybe replace a lot of those weird random scenes with random characters, you know, then have them actively participate in a huge battle in the season finale. So I guess I would say it should have weakened the episode, but there were just so many other issues. I honestly, I can't really tell for certain because that was probably one of the better parts of this episode. So, you know, I do know. No, it isn't. I do know for me personally, I can't say Lohar moves the excitement scale at all for me with regards to watching season 3. But, you know, at least they wrote her character with a sense of humor. So that's nice. Just not for his series finale or season finale.
Yeah. So our next question. Would you have laid out the scenes for the final episode differently, or did this do the job to set us up for season 3? Were there scenes that didn't seem to add much to the show? Jonathan, you want to start us off?
Yeah. It was a train wreck. I mean, this episode had so many cuts, scenes, and characters with some truly bizarre transitions that it almost reminded me of a stream of consciousness style college poetry jam. Like, and I was at one of those before. It was painful. It was very painful. You know, the random 3 to 5 second clips of Rhaena on her dragon chase interspersed throughout the episode was just ridiculous. And I'm not sure why it was jammed into this finale. Like, you could put it at any time and actually make it like actual scenes.
Yeah.
I don't know. The scenes with Ulf, they were just beyond unnecessary and could have easily been cut. You know, maybe the Essos conversation with Tylan was fine for the finale, but did we really need 3 minutes of mud wrestling or dinner karaoke? And then there's the 5-second scene of Aemon smirking at a burning town dropped pretty much out of nowhere, just so the following scene could make sense, because that's what they were talking about. So now this is where I will throw the editor a bone. Based on all the scenes that were in this episode, of which there were something like 936 of them, And the fact that this single episode covered multiple months, I'm not even sure what you can do with that if the showrunner and scriptwriter tell you all those scenes need to be included. At that point, it almost falls to the script, because otherwise it's basically handing your editor 700 random 8-second TikTok videos and telling them to make a show out of that. It's just bizarre, the fixation on these short clips and rapid fire jumps the series has shown at times. It's almost like it's some odd stylistic choice to bring in people whose attention spans can't last more than a few seconds at a time. But I mean, I was exhausted watching this. This was just not at all streamlined. Completely disjointed mess.
Mm-hmm. Like I definitely feel like it was harder to pay attention, even if you do have a low attention span, because there's no logical follow through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would definitely have been more focused on the main arcs. For some reason, this show likes to skip the dramatic parts and tell us about it after. Showing the aftermath of Aemon burning down a whole city certainly takes the steam out of the act. If perhaps we got to see Aemon become emotionally unhinged, try to force his sister to join him in burning more cities, and accidentally hurts her in the process. Witness the horror on, say, Alicent's face as she sees a whole city burn down in the distance, and the following strife in the castle. That would have been a great build-up to Alicent eventually going over to Rhaenyra and begging for peace. This episode would have been the time to see Rhaenyra finally take military action as well. Perhaps she could have capitalized on Aemon's fit by crushing one of the military holds they have, since she knows his dragon is busy. I mean, she really needed to take some kind of military action in this finale for it to feel like a finale. The entirety of this season was leading up to her battle. Instead, she faces her fears of Daemon actually taking his kingship by flying over to Harrenhal. That was like the bit, like, wow, okay. While the scene of Daemon and the armies bending the knee was nice, it wasn't earned, so it wasn't very exciting. Every single other storyline was filler, and that could have been shown in a previous or future episode to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So true. So much to say. Like, they were somewhat laid out to be the second to last episode of the season, I'd say. There's a lot of stuff I would have preferred to see in this episode earlier in the season. Since it was the finale, it leaves me wanting more to a disappointing degree. If I can't add or actually change anything, then my first thought with it is just shifting things around. Is I would have had the montage of all the mobilizing earlier in the episode, or not even done, or even all of it done as one big montage. Like, the pirate awesomeness would have been in a completely different episode if I could have had it my way. Nothing overarching in this felt resolved. And I would have saved the quiet intensity of Alicent's arrival and departure for the ending. Like, one long, intense scene up those stakes a lot between them. Ending the season with her leaving and the huge weight of Rhaenyra's doubts, leaving us to really question, what is she going to do? Instead of the cliche montage that just touches on that question.
Yeah, I mean, our next question of the evening is, does the dialogue and personality traits of the characters in this episode match how they have been built up over the seasons? Yeah, okay, so I felt like this episode was trying its hand at a lot of different styles, like a little Shakespearean, some Les Mis vibes. Sir Chris and Cole and Rhaenyra were suddenly speaking poetically, which was never in their lexicon.
Mm-hmm.
Alan of Hull actually speaks his mind, but I feel the prompt for it was not enough to get him to be so frank. I could see if they were in the midst of a battle and his dad wants to help him, he finally cracks and says what he's thinking. But no, it's just, side conversation. Helena was actually coherent, focused, and confident with her visions to Aemon. She looked like a different person even in her stance. I haven't seen her progression to get to that stage, so it feels very out of the blue. The only person I was hoping to see change in was Aegon this episode. He is getting some strength back and seems like his same old self, which is just kind of super depressing. Also, making Ulf a jerk all of a sudden rubbed wrong as well. Like, there were no signs of him being that type of jerk before. Even if he does have a big head with the dragon, he was never shown to be a mean-spirited person. I could see him getting cocky and wanting to rush into battle for the team, but not just being belligerent overall.
Yeah, Ulf truly is an oaf, which I didn't really get the sense of before. Like, he felt more shady and bitter prior to this episode. Like, now he's ecstatic and silly. So, like, I'm dropping my theory that he was actually going to be a wild card who might play for both sides. He's just a goof who will make us laugh and who's going to be cannon fodder. He's great to have thrown into the mix, and even better when Jace is around. Yeah, Christian Cole is once again incredibly annoying. Calling Alicent his beacon is up there with one of the most cringy things I have ever heard from somebody in a relationship. Mostly because, once again, they have a spite and lust relationship. It's not romantic. Rhaena has never had so much bite before. It didn't feel like it was in character. Like, she was focused and sharp. Like, not like herself at all. She could have been cryptic, brave, speaking up to Aemon like that, but still aloof from the real world, which would have tracked. And lastly, the entire buildup of questioning Daemon's loyalty to Rhaenyra seems to be over. So that was a very slow resolution. There wasn't anything with double meaning from him in this. He's just back where he started from with his loyalty with Rhaenyra, right back where he started. Like, it's not the worst we've seen of characters acting out of character, but you have to stretch it to make this work.
Yeah, I agree with you there with Rhaenyra and Daemon. It would be far more intriguing if Daemon was not so forthright. But yeah, I mean, it's just a weird arc in general. Like, to spend a whole season on that arc, it's like, why? What was gained there? Like, what did we actually accomplish? I don't know. In any case, yeah, this to me was one of the most unintentionally hilarious episodes I've ever seen in this regard. I mean, and I'll go over what you basically said. We'll start with Kristen Cole, who has somehow gone from monosyllabic angry emo boy to waxing poetic nihilistic philosophy in the forest. I mean, what? Then there's Daemon, who is sleep deprived, certifiably insane all season, and has never in the show exhibited any leadership tendencies whatsoever. And now he's calm, cool, collected, and a confident leader who can lead and organize an entire army and fortify Harrenhal practically overnight? Yeah. Okay, sure. Then you have, I mean, at least with Daemon, they've written his character differently every single episode. So, there's that. Although this season they were actually more consistent. So throw that in the trash. Then you have Ulf, who, as you said, was portrayed as possibly like a braggart or boaster, with secrets, but was beloved in like the bar and tavern, who is now he's an unreserved, unmannered, disrespectful, drunken lout who is just like the worst person. He's never been shown to be that in the show whatsoever. Just completely different. And finally, there is my favorite, which you both pointed out, which is Rhaena, a character who up until now has been portrayed as someone basically with some form of mental, whether it be disability or struggle, that only has been able to speak in visions and has issues communicating, who this episode was able to communicate with Aemon with perfectly coherent clarity. And as you said, her stance was completely changed, almost like they're trying to make it seem like she's been faking her condition the whole time. Like, that's the only thing I can get out of that, which makes no sense to her character whatsoever. I mean, what in the world was this episode? And that's not even to mention Rhaenyra, who randomly switched between brain dead idiot and philosopher depending on the scene. I was watching halfway through the episode and I'm like, wow, they are really just going ahead and just letting it go, for half of the episode, and then all of a sudden, yeah, she's waxing poetic too, and she's some high level philosopher. I mean, is there nobody in the writing room responsible for the show for character consistency from episode to episode, or even within episode? This series in general has played super, super, super fast and loose with their characters' traits and personalities, and has even had different characters repeat lines verbatim in different parts of the episode. But what they did with the dialogue this episode, I mean, it was beyond ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. This episode, when you compare it to every single other episode that they've had, makes zero sense from a character standpoint. None.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. It's mind-boggling how they think that would play well. Our next question of the evening is, now that the tension between father and son have finally peaked with the sea snake and Alan, how do you feel about the lead up to this moment? Jonathan, you want to get started?
Yeah, so this one, I did very much enjoy the scene between Corliss and Alan, and I do feel like their dialogue actually was realistic. I know you made a statement earlier about you didn't think that it would lead to this, but I could actually see it with something like this, because it was basically somebody pretending to be dad, like, oh, you just need to put yourself out there, you just need to go ahead and be a leader amongst men. And to be honest, if you're somebody with daddy issues, I think that would probably very much trigger you in that moment, to be like, what, you had your whole lifetime to say something like this to me, and now you're saying it to me. So I did love the scene. I thought it was realistic, and while I thought it was fantastic, I don't think the scene had anything to do with the buildup of the relationship up to this point. The reason it was powerful was simply that it was well written. Whereas the prior Alan scenes this season were primarily just random small talk vignettes that didn't add to or do much of anything to the script. As such, I still think the buildup could have been written better in establishing Alan as a character, as well as in establishing Corliss's dismissive behavior towards him and his brother. I mean, show that then. And that's an even better way to not even introduce the brother. You just see him in scenes where he's being snubbed by Corliss or walking by, and then you find out, oh, that's actually his bastard son. That would make sense, but this scene, it was a powerful standalone scene. There's no doubt in that. I like the scene.
Yeah, I feel for them. I like them both. I see where they both are coming from. I'm frustrated at Corliss for not taking more time to initiate a relationship sooner. But prior to this conversation, I thought that Corliss only recently was aware of the brothers and of them being his bastards. Like, this season recently was aware of them. So it seems like he has a good excuse for not being present. And he really could have expressed how he has heirs, but he wants somebody honorable and who is salt and sea to inherit. I don't feel like this was a climax for them. I feel like there could be more, but I think we're about to get another death of one of the better characters, and this is gonna be it. So another half-finished, half-assed climatic conversation. Once again, this is a scene for a second to last episode. Not great for a finale episode.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys, and you make a really good point about the scene being a standalone. Well done. But overall, the build-up, what a waste of time. They played the same exact tune each episode between them and never developed anything past that one note of he's a secret bastard son and no one wants to talk about it. Now we finally hear what's on Alan's mind, and it feels like going from 0 to 60 to me, when all of that time spent could have actually delved more deeply into that relationship. It was a waste and unfortunate. It might have made for some really interesting growth and connection if done right, to where we'd really be shipping this father-son relationship into the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was not a scene problem. This was a build-up problem, and I think we should be clear. This
Yep.
was a very good scene.
Well put.
Absolutely. Our next question of the night is, how did Alicent imagine her request to Rhaenyra would have gone? And was Rhaenyra's response kind or cruel in your opinion?
Ooh.
Hmm.
Instagram TikTok question right here.
Sesh, you want to start us off?
I think she knew. She's been in the wrong for a while now, and she's finally accepting that she is a terrible mother to her kids. And the war is finally starting to touch her family, with Aemon finally starting to be what we were supposed to know what he is, even though he wasn't really the worst of her kids this whole time. But even though she said she finally wants to be free of it, and excuse me. And be her own person. She wanted Rhaenyra to tell her what needed to happen. She knew what needed to happen, but she wanted to be told. I appreciate that Aemon's actions finally broke Alicent, though. She just wants to protect Helaena, but she still wanted Rhaenyra to tell her what needs to happen. This is a pretty half-baked plan, if you ask me. Actually, not even cooked at all. Like, how the hell is she going to implement it? Like, she'd much rather just disappear with her old bestie now that she's been removed from power herself. Okay. I don't feel like she wants to do this to help the realm at all. Just for herself and Helaena, while not having to live as a peasant, not doing much of anything for the sake of their survival. Her turning traitor could have been built up and be a cool aspect going forward of this scene. I think the reactions are all very what she expected. She didn't seem like she was in shock about anything.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like she thinks she has power. Like, how does she still think she has power? Like, everybody said you have no power.
How's this gonna work?
She's like, yeah, I got some sway there. Like, not even with Aegon, who can't even move. You have no. This was ridiculous because it wasn't set up well. It looks like Alicent took a nice vacation and realized free time and chilling was more important than the lives of her children, except Lena. It sounded exceptionally selfish and strange. It also showed she thinks she has more power than she does. Rhaenyra's response wasn't cruel or kind. It was more shocked. And I guess trying to problem solve based off of lack of experience with anything, and how she perceives what winning goes. I don't know. Her problem solving skills have not been good. She thinks she.
No.
It's to the point. This scene confused me too. I'm like, oh man, I don't know. She thinks killing Aegon is a must for her rule to take place, but is giving Alicent the job to do it.
Just Aegon.
Yeah, I wish Rhaenyra knew what she was doing even a little bit. It would make things so much more interesting.
Yeah, you make a great point. I didn't even write that down because it's true. She has no power whatsoever. Like, nobody's loyal to her in King's Landing. What is she gonna do? So you make a great point. She's like, Aegon, he like sometimes listens to me because he's sitting on a
He can't move.
So sad.
Finally, he listens.
You make good points. Considering Alicent flat out told Rhaenyra at the end of their conversation that she wanted Rhaenyra to run away with her, I think it is safe to say she was hoping that her and Rhaenyra would turn back time to once again be childhood besties and live out her schoolgirl crush fantasies. Lovely thought, especially after spending a week, as a hippie in the woods, but, not reasonable or rational. And I think Alicent knew that. Rhaenyra's response, though, it wasn't cruel. I disagree with a lot of people on the internet circles, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I just thought that it was extremely lacking in maturity. Sometimes one of the more important aspects to being a good leader is recognizing when you have a win in hand. Here you have your rival offering to abdicate the throne and give you King's Landing completely unimpeded. She practically surrendered. You don't need to throw it back in her face or force her to choose between surrendering and letting Rhaenyra publicly behead her son. No, do what you've got to do after you've secured the throne, crown, and castle. Until then, do all you can to make the turncoat feel at ease while coordinating with them so they can best deliver your victory efficiently and quickly. You know, the response Rhaenyra had simply confirms that not only is she a terrible military leader, she also has no political leadership capabilities either. Like, that is not how you respond to somebody surrendering. You accept their surrender. You say, absolutely, let's get this done. Let's do it now.
I'm taking notes.
She likes tactical disadvantages, is what I've learned.
That's it. What?
I think they were trying to, I think that's when they're trying to bring back the Shakespearean vibe, like a son for a son. Like, let's bring it's so potent. And it's like, it doesn't track.
You could have the son that's not even doing anything right now. Like,
he's charbroiled. It's like, okay. Number 6. Our sixth question is, what aspects of this episode could have been added to the ending montage and nothing would have been missed? What do you think?
Everything? Okay. I'm joking, sort of. I'm joking, but honestly, I did like and appreciate the montage with its truly phenomenal scoring. You know, yeah, fine, cliche, fine. But you know what? I actually thought they did a good job of it. I thought the musical composition was fantastic. And I actually do think the medley put a nice bow on the episode, showing all the characters making their final battle preparation where they are now. That said, in a lot of ways, it felt to me like this whole rest of the episode was a medley, aside from the lengthy Rhaenyra Alicent scene. The lone difference being that it wasn't cut nor flowed as expertly. You know, and I think that's the biggest issue I had with this episode, is that I think the 4-minute medley featuring every single character is a perfectly fine way to sum up the season and where the characters are at the calm before the season 3 storm. But if you do that, you don't also need to include a bullet storm of storylines for every single one of your characters throughout the episode. You can cut several characters out, just lengthen and strengthen your A and B storylines, whatever those were this episode, with a tighter, well-flowing script, and then at the end, show your medley as it does the same thing of reminding the audience where your characters are at in their progression, while also giving the audience a more coherent and much improved storyline.
I agree. I mean, to echo what you're saying, but just add some specifics. I feel like instead of Ulf's scene, we could have had a shot of Ulf kicking his heels up and drinking where Rhaenyra usually sits. Okay, we see he's got a big head now. Instead of Criston Cole's poetics, we could just show Criston staring ominously into a lake while he undoes his armor as there's a burning city reflected behind him. The Tyland, Lannister, and Essos plot could have waited for season 3 or been done earlier. Rhaenyra's search for a dragon maybe could have been one shot or not done at all, as that has no relevance for this specific episode. So those are my like pointers for what you're saying.
No, those are great. I really like the imagery of that Criston Cole scene. That would have been beautiful. That would have been great, since you're already building.
Yeah, that'd have been really good. Yeah, this was heavily lacking a battle of any kind. I would have still been wanting it if it was a human battle or a boat battle, but at least it would have been something and could have meant something. Like even Aemon destroying the town could have been something shown closer to the ending, since that act wasn't really Alicent's final straw before going to Rhaenyra anyways. That was when he wanted Helena to join him. It also could have been a thing he wanted her to join him for. So showing him doing the burning the place down while everyone else in the story is preparing for battle could have been a great ominous way to show what these factions are all really preparing for. what's at stake and and it raises the stakes too, since we'll see just how possible it is for the dragons to go burn anything down. Instead, the town's destruction is yet another cut to the end of the action scene. I can't believe they did this again. I knew the episode was going to have issues when it opened with that. Like Rhaena finding sheep stealer and us not seeing how that plays out was another cop-out. Like, we know how it'll play out, but I wanted to see it. Like, alternatively, it would have been interesting for us to have left her wandering the land, still looking for sheep stealer, not actually being 100% sure about the ordeal that she's in and where that's going to take her.
Yeah, like her shivering next to that rock, and all of a sudden you see a giant dragon come down beside her, you know.
That would have been cool.
Even better, yeah.
No, I mean, to your point, could you imagine if in Game of Thrones they just like skipped Daenerys's burning of the it's like just show her smoking later, like just a steam coming off. Like,
I want to see like a super cut of the original series, like just any of the episodes edited like this. So it's just like, oh, no action. Oh, 4 parts of conversation. Oh, saying lines again, verbatim. Like,
that's a great idea. All right, well, we have finally come to the ratings for the final episode of the season.
Yeah, so anybody live listening, feel free, put in your rating for the episode and rating for the season, and we will try getting to it after our responses.
Yep. Sasha, you want to pick us up here as well?
Yeah. Being generous, I will say it's a 5 on its own as an episode in the series. It's a 2.5 as far as finales go. It has got to be the most lackluster finale. Like, not one thing built up had a climax. There's no uprising of the common folk in King's Landing. No battle for Harrenhold. Not one betrayal that was teased, like Daemon or Rogue Dragon Rider. At most, we got a heated speech from a bastard son to his father that didn't feel like a resolution or a relationship status change. We didn't even get to see any of the Dragon Rider training and plant the seeds of that being a more difficult task than anticipated. Not one physical conflict or fight, just another battle where we just see the aftermath and none of the action. No action in this series. What? I saw that the episode was longer than most, and I really thought we would get like 10 minutes of something important. The more I think about this episode and really the whole series, the more I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, to that thought process, I was watching this episode, and one of the thoughts that immediately jumped to mind was that if I were to have written a parody House of the Dragon episode, just so remarkably similar, it would have looked to this one. You know, introducing a brand new character, check. Chock full of random scenes with random characters that don't contribute to the storyline, check. Wild character shifts and personalities from prior episodes, check. Awkward 3 to 5 second jump cuts between characters that have little to do with each other and don't transition properly, check. Rhaenyra acting like a plastic valley girl, check. You know, long shots of people staring at things, check. You know, and random Game of Thrones visions and prophecies that have nothing to do with anything, yeah, check. You know, all set to a fantastic musical score and beautiful cinematography. Yeah, check, more check. You know, all this episode was missing, honestly, was Alicent bathing. Actually, you know what? If this was a parody, I'd have Alicent bathing while Rhaenyra and Mysaria make out during the Rhaenyra secret meeting. But you get the point. You get the point. I was honestly actively laughing at some of the scenes and dialogue, not because it was funny, but unintentionally because it featured such dramatic character departures, dialogues, and random scenes. I mean, this was a more practical version of you give 1,000 monkeys 1,000 typewriters, and eventually you'll get Shakespeare type of episode.
Oh.
I am being a bit mean, but honestly, I mean, I do. I give this episode, it's a 3 out of 10 for me. It's a D minus, and it puts a cap on a truly disappointing and disastrous season, in my opinion. So huge ouch from me. Huge.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. This episode failed to focus on what was important and wound up burying or confusing the drama that could have and should have been. I really believed, I thought for sure, since they skipped Aemon burning the city down, that Rhaenyra would have gotten her wires crossed and felt betrayed by Daemon, and then that would have been this big dramatic thing where she burns him and the city and then finds out, oh, she was wrong. You know, some kind of betrayal drama. Not there. Not even there. I would give this episode 3 out of 10, as same for you, keeping in mind that the artistry, costume, cinematography, and acting were all very good. Mm-hmm. It's just the writing needed to be there, and it needed to be big. Yeah.
All right. We do have one of our members who's been here for a while from our viewing audience who also rates this a 4. So this episode. So it seems like we're on the mark there. He also has a question, which is actually pretty good. We will cover that in the fan Q&A right after we get to the series. So let's do our series conclusion.
All right. So season finale question. How would you rate the overall season, and would you watch the next season? Sesh, you want to start us off again?
Overall, 3, maybe a 4 out of 10. There's about 3 to 4 episodes worth of good content and good scenes throughout the whole series. It's baffling how bad this whole season was when this was the season that was promised. We were told last season was the hodgepodge, get it out quick because the prequel needs to be more of a prequel. This one didn't have the near constant time leaps at least, thankfully, but it didn't feel like we had a handle on the time that did lapse. The time that passed was vague. I definitely take that over the mess of the first season, but this was still bad in its own way. Like, I might keep watching with filmmakers because I will say I actually do love the overarching story. I'm upset this is all drawn out over more than 3 seasons, though. I know it won't get better. I'm sure of that. I'm thinking I'll just read it instead. Like, reading the book of this story must be so great, but I absolutely hate the way they're telling the story and portraying these characters. When I look at the story overview, everything that has happened and what may be to come, it is a great story. The show lacks craftful storytelling. The rest of the aspects that go into a show are great. The music, sets, wardrobe, acting, cinematography are all there and are perfectly Game of Thrones. But the writing, which is the most important thing, doesn't fly on its own. It's so reliant on the coattails of the original. It's no match. It lacks oomph. It lacks love. It doesn't feel like it's a show made from passionate nerds or bookworms. I have had this theory that George R.R. Martin hasn't been writing his final book in the series because of the terrible reception of the end of the show before. But I hope we all see that it's nothing to do with his writing. It's not him, not plot or story that's flawed. It's the showrunners, writers, producers, and executives behind the show that have mangled his wonderfully rich and brilliant story into just something to consume rather than love.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Poetic.
I had to rant. I rant.
And you didn't even have to go into a forest to do it. So that's impressive.
I missed the secret garden for secrets.
Yeah, I feel like a few episodes, like you said, teased something great, but the rest was confused, underwhelming, plotting to boil it down. I mean, I personally would not like to watch season 3. as I know I'm in for the same kind of writing and I'm not excited enough to commit hours to the outcome. I could just wait till the season's over and read a few Spark Notes. I mean, I guess that's cheaper than reading the actual
libraries.
To find out the outcome. I mean, it's probably gonna be a different outcome than the books anyway, and be just as informed as if I watched it. I feel like for me, season 3 is a pass.
Yeah, I mean, what a beyond brutal season. My episode grades this season out of 10 were a 6, 5, 2, 8.5, 3, 3.5, 7, and a 3. And that averages out to 4.75 out of 10. And if anything, that feels generous, as it's really carried by 2 episodes. If I were to judge this season overall, I'd probably put it as a 4 out of 10, or a B, you know. The more I watch this show, similar to Sesh, the more I just get disappointed, as everything from the character personalities to the dialogue to the cuts to the pacing to the plot and execution, they all suffer from tremendous gaps between what this is and what an ideal show should have been. And it's a shame, because I think it undervalues what has been truly phenomenal cinematography, scoring, and costume design. You know, it's amazing. Like, all of those things are 10s. Any show out there would kill for that. You know, this is just basically slapping a fresh coat of paint on Harrenhal with some lively music and calling it good at this point. I mean, you know, and to Sesh's point, it's even more disappointing when you consider the showrunners basically put out a very hurried disclaimer at the end of season 1, saying that season 1 was a prologue that was thrown together late in development because HBO demanded it, as a reason why viewers might have been disappointed with it, because they knew that there were people out there who were not very high on this show, who didn't just give in to the hype of it being Game of Thrones, because it's clearly far worse, you know, along with the promise of a riveting, action-packed season 2 that would be the true kickoff to the show. Well, if that was the plan, then they executed just about as well as Rhaenyra leads. I mean, this show, and this is where I do get a little bit mean, and I'm sorry. Like, I don't like doing this. This is somebody's creative process. Okay? Like, I shouldn't have to say this. But this show is a disjointed, poorly written mess that simply does not hit the marks and almost shuns providing any payoff whatsoever. It's like, oh, we have a good climax here, or we can build to something here. No, let's spoil it by just showing the ending and then do a little bit of talking after it. It makes no sense. As such, I have little to no interest in the characters or plot at this point. I think I've made that known. And I have almost no hope. I should say no hope. It's going to get better, or much of any care on how the story progresses and ends. You know, and as such, I think our time is best served reviewing another show where we can actually give pinpointed answers on how we could do a specific scene of an otherwise great show better, rather than the general, we could do pretty much everything better that we get with House of the Dragon. So no go on season 3 for me, unless there is undying support from our fans clamoring for, please, more of this show.
I am more entertained when my answer is like, no, I couldn't do it better. This was great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, and looking also a 4 rating for the season for the series from our fans. So that makes sense. I think we'll do a quick fan Q&A now before we leave. So we do have a question from one of our super fans, Rebel Warren, which is, how does Damon seeing a clip trailer of the Game of Thrones series cause him to completely change the trajectory of where his character had been heading this season? And was it necessary to link this story to the Game of Thrones series? I actually think, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I will say, Sesh, I think you have had great responses to this in the past.
Yeah, it's completely irrelevant. They're trying to ride on the coattails and show us something we find exciting. I can see with him that it turns him into a nihilist, like, oh, we're so small in this galaxy and this this timeline of seeing everything and kind of loses a little bit of his self in that way. But like, it's not like he became the three-eyed raven where he just loses all humanity. I mean, he didn't really have like a lot exactly, but it didn't feel like that was like the climax of what Alice was doing either, where she was just like, come touch this tree. We didn't get that. I get that if he does, you know, and if you have a bloodline, then maybe you can see everything in the future. And then again, this is without reading the books, but it's just the trailer for the other show. Like, yeah. I don't need it. That doesn't work. I mean, he was already at the point where he didn't want to lead. Like, we didn't need another thing, you know? Like, it's, I don't know. It felt very pointless in the moment, but it's just another missed opportunity of something that could have been built up and done properly. Like, it would have been really cool if she really was talking about the trees and went into it and like, these trees will change you. Like, even just saying that when like they first meet or something. I'm still bothered like he's the only one that's seeing ghosts and going psycho who lives here when a lot of other people have been living there and they don't have this problem. Anyways.
Maybe they do and just don't talk about it. Yeah, you know, to that point, I do. I think it's just shameless. Like, I mean, it is clear, hey, you remember that show that a lot of people used to like? Yeah, try focusing on that instead of the episode at hand. Like, it doesn't make any sense how they had that rapid character change for Damon. That didn't make any sense. They're like talking, oh, he's going on a spiritual journey or whatever in terms of the director. It's like, what spiritual journey? Like, all of this was basically handed to him, you know?
And I think they were honestly just being super obvious by saying he literally just saw her sitting on the throne with a crown. Oh,
she's symbolism.
That's it.
Yeah. As well as the oh, I'm seeing visions of something that happens like in 100 years. Like, I mean, it's like, come on.
Maybe he's just settled with the fact, like, hell yeah, my lineage does carry on. Cool. I don't have to fight so hard. Like, it's frustrating, unnecessary, and could have been done better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's also bringing up the issues with Rhaena this episode as well, and why they didn't focus on her journey in like honest, like, which again, yeah, I don't know why you'd put like 3 to 7 second clips randomly interspersed in an episode for a character. You do a much better job of actually spending time on that arc and building to that arc. Or just don't include it for a finale. Like, there's why
all of those shots could have just been cut together in the same chunk of time, and it would have worked fine. It would have been like a little montage of her, like, wow, she's getting out there and getting lost and dealing with the elements. That would have been fine. Like, 4 seconds. I want a scene that's more than a page.
All right. On that note, again, thank you so much for watching and the questions, Rebel Warren. You know, I think it is about time to close this this chapter and maybe hint at what we might be doing next week or in the weeks to come. So in any case, thank you everybody so much for joining us this evening and watching until the very end. We really do appreciate the support, and hopefully we brought you some intelligent conversation and laughs tonight. Props to House of the Dragon for laughs. That's on them tonight. And it's really your support that does make this worth it. So if you like this show, please like, share, subscribe, heart. And if you hated the show, please make sure to like it twice, as that'll really show us. This will probably be the final episode that we're going to send to the House of the Dragon showrunners with our rating to make them look at our like count and see how that's going. So our next episode, it will be on Tuesday, August 13th. That will be streamed on YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern. Generally, we do a live podcast on Podbean at somewhere between 5 and 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Usually we try starting just at 5, but minutes, you know how it works. So definitely looking forward to seeing you then. Now, what might we be doing in terms of that episode going forward? Because this season is over, as everybody knows. We did start reviewing the Witcher series. I believe we did 4 of those episodes, and they actually seemed to be getting pretty well liked by the community. So I think we've decided we're going to go back to that series. We'll release episode 5 tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Whoa.
I'm sorry. Yeah, what?
Intern's getting ahead of himself.
You got a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah. So we will be doing season 1, episode 5. We will be recapping that. That is next Tuesday, August 13th. That is the correct time for that. And so hopefully that'll give listeners some time also maybe to binge watch those first 4 episodes, maybe listen to our reviews of that. It was a great show. We were really enjoying it. And then
we had fun with that.
Yeah.
And then be with us live for episode 5. So, on that note, until next time, could you do it better? Dun 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 dun.
Toss a coin to your witcher.
All right, bye guys.